Bob Gomes is this year's recipient of the Lieutenant Governor's Award for Distinguished Achievement.
I was born and raised in Edmonton, went to school in Edmonton, went to university in Edmonton, worked my entire career in Edmonton. My mom and dad didn't go to university, but that's what they said is each of our children will go to university. I was the third one, and graduated, started to work for a firm called Walker Newby and Associates. It was about a 120-person consulting engineering firm specializing in land development. 1981 National Energy Program was instituted by the first Trudeau, and at that time business in Alberta stopped. Walker Newby Associates went from a firm of 120 people to 12 people. Met Tony Druid, who worked for Stanley at the time, or IMC, and Tony approached me. I then met with him and Tony Franceschini, who was my predecessor as CEO of Stantec. Had breakfast with him, and he said, yeah, this should work. So joined in 1988. You know, Stantec gave me that opportunity of continuing to do more for the company and doing it here. I was in land development. That's what I did when I was with Stantec. The first 20 years was land development, and loved it.
I worked on a number of projects with Bob, all in the Edmonton region. I was a land developer, and Bob was a project engineer. He's very meticulous, which is exactly what you want when you're working with somebody on something as demanding as a land development project.
Tony approached me one time and said, well, you know, we've got this opening in industrial, and we've bought these companies in oil and gas and mining, and how would you like to lead that? And my point is, well, I don't know anything about industrial. I know land development. And he said, and, you know, favorite words of Tony was, well, how hard could it be? Taking that chance and risk was probably one of the best things I did, because it exposed me to a whole different branch of engineering.
He would step up, he'd roll up his sleeves, and he'd get involved.
I was volunteered by my first mentor, George Walker. He said, I'm going to volunteer you to sit on nonprofit boards. And the first one was Edmonton Nonprofit Housing Authority. You're going to sit on there for 2 years as a director, and then you're going to be chair for 2 years. And it was, so 4 years of my life I'm going to give up to this? And he said, no, that's just the first 4 years. Then you're going to find something else to do. And I remember thinking, no, this is not a good idea. This is taking away from my family. I was 28, had young kids, and the meetings were at night. I look back at it and said, the lessons I learned there, I never would have learned in my day-to-day business. It gave you a different perspective. It gave you leadership skills that you couldn't learn just working for a company. None of these people are getting paid for doing what they're doing. So the only way you're going to be able to get them on side is through consensus. You learn to lead without leverage. CEA, I was lucky enough to become president. It was really a learning experience to learn how other engineers thought in the business. A lot of engineers love to solve problems, but don't like to invoice for it and collect the bill for it. And I think CEA really gave me the understanding that you've got to be good at both. I started as CEO of Stantec in May of 2009. 2008, 2009 was not a great economic situation. The economy is in a total recession. Our business is declining, so it was like walking into a fire. Stantec had 10,000 people in May when I took over the role of CEO. By the end of the year, we had 8,500. Just remember that the company is people, and at the end of the day, that's what you got to worry about.
Bob's abilities to really understand the business and to make the best of what he could out of it is remarkable. When we were going through the difficult time, Bob led the company through those changes. And through all that period of time, the company grew, completed over 50 acquisitions. So he took advantage of those difficult times in the market. I recall him going to the board with a strategy that says, our runway in North America is getting shorter. Bob started on the path of reaching out to all of these global firms that met the criteria that the company was looking to grow in. That's what's propelled Stantec to be number 3 in North America and number 10 globally. Without that move, Stantec would still be primarily a North American firm today. It's not about bigger is better is better, was Bob's theme.
I've had a lot of proud moments when I was with Stantec, but one of them was in 2012, really changing the way that Stantec identified themselves as a company. Everything we do as a company and everything that every engineering company does really impacts the community we live in. And not a lot of industries can say that.
And our connection to our communities. It's not just a tagline on our corporate brochures. Bob wanted to take it another level, So that's when Bob started Stantec in the Community Day, which is now turned into Stantec in the Community Week. And that gives all of our employees around the world an opportunity to give back. And that started as an idea that Bob had.
He's had great vision, he's taken on huge projects, and he's acted with integrity.
Not a year would go by that I wasn't questioned by an investor, specifically in New York or Toronto, saying, why Edmonton? The simple answer is why not? And when Stantec was growing, we had 5 different offices in the city, and one of the things we realized it'd be nice to do would be move into one location. So we started on the journey. We joined with the Cates Group when Darryl had the vision for downtown. Building the arena, if you build it, we will come. Well, we came. And our point was we want to be right at the front door. I wanted it to be as large as we could possibly make it. And the point was I want Calgary to be able to see it. I want it to be the largest in Western Canada. It is exactly 8 meters taller than the bow in Calgary.
Stantec had done all the architecture, the engineering, the design, interior design, etc. of the entire building. Bob led that entire effort.
Hopefully, and answered the question clearly once and for all that yes, our head office is Edmonton, is going to stay here.
Bob and I were, with the MWH acquisition, we were sitting in a Bay Street boardroom waiting for the share issuance. We were doing an issuance to help fund that acquisition, and our share price kept going up and up and up in the morning, and that made it more difficult to price this thing. So what's Bob do? He pulls out his computer, gets on Excel. Now, Bob and I have had discussions over the years about his Excel skills, and we won't talk about that, but remarkably, we needed that spreadsheet to help price that transaction. And Bob says, who would have thought 10 years ago this little prairie boy would be sitting here on Bay Street raising $1 billion in equity?
Bob's always been an early riser. So he's at the office every morning before 6 o'clock. So then as people start to roll in at 7 or 7:30 or 8, Bob's prepared, he's ready to hit the ground running.
Could never get in before Bob in the morning. It was, I tried.
Comes down to that balance. You got to have balance. If you're going to go in, work early and stay late, you're probably not going to achieve that balance. So I was home, most days for dinner.
When I assumed this role from Bob, that's what everyone asked me. Are you going to be on Bob time? So if you have a meeting with Bob that starts at 8 o'clock, if you get there at 7:45, you're late. So it's always been a hallmark of Bob's style.
There's 2 aspects of success. One is you've got to have a great team at the company you're working at, and you've got to have a great team at home. And I was blessed enough to have that. I have a very patient wife, and I thank her very much for putting up with me for all those years. And the same thing with my kids. Certainly having that family life is extremely important to success.
He's leading the company still through his contribution on the board. He is got a passion and commitment that's second to none.
Bob, thank you for your outstanding leadership. On behalf of the Consulting Engineers of Alberta, congratulations on your award.